Student Council and Department of Commerce. I thank management of S.S.T College of Arts and Commerce to organize such informative session. I thank Chairman and Founder Principal of S.S.T College, Dr. J.C. Purswani, Sir, and IQSC Coordinator and Vice Principal of S.S.T College, Dr. Khushbu Purswani, ma'am, for always supporting such event. And I also thank my senior colleagues, administrative staff, and teaching staff for helping to organize such events. Now I will request Professor Sunil Shah sir to say a few words about Student Council.
Welcome, Dr. Aditya Srinivas sir, from the COO, Chief Operating Officer of the Bombay Stock Brokers Forum. See, Student Council is for the students, by the students, and of the students. This is all managed by the students. We help them to motivate for their future life. Yesterday, sir had called up about investment and insurance, and today, sir will be covering up about Indian economy. I'm handing over to my colleague, Assistant Professor Reena ma'am, for future.
Thank you, sir. In today's session, distinguished personality among us is going to share his views on Indian economy post-COVID 2019. I welcome Dr. V. Aditya Srinivas, sir, working as Chief Operating Officer and Chief Economist at Bombay Stock Exchange Broker Forum. He has total 16 years of experience in this field. I request, sir, to start with session. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and devoting your valuable time for delivering this informative webinar. Over to you, sir.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for your kind support. I really thank S.S.T College of Arts and Commerce for giving us this opportunity of sharing knowledge about Indian economy, stock market, and the world at large. Today, friends, the topic is very interesting. It is basically Indian economy. So we'll try to understand basically how Indian economy is performing, what are the challenges, and how basically economic data plays an important role. See, friends, to start with, basically Indian economy is called as heaven of stability. The reason is basically if we talk of Indian economy, then for the last 20 years, if you see the average economic data, it is around 7.5% as compared to world average of around 2.5 to 3%. So one thing is clear, friends, that as far as our economy is concerned, it performs on a consistent basis. In fact, our current GDP is at 8.4%, which is almost the highest in the world as compared to the major economies. US is around 5.6%, China 4.9%, Europe is around 2 to 3%. So in the current scenario also, the economy has been able to provide a good economic data, and it is reviving well out of this COVID-19 situation, friends. The reason why our economy performs well is primarily because of these three features: demographic dividend, domestic consumption, and high savings rate. These three factors play a real critical role as far as Indian economy is concerned. See, demographic dividend means that we have 70% of our population less than 35 years of age, which means that our average age of an Indian is only 25 to 26 years as compared to USA 43, Japan 52, and Europe 47. So we have large chunk of people in the young population framework. Now this ensures that when they work, they will earn. When they earn, they will spend. So when they spend money, obviously the demand and consumption in the economy is going to rise. So that is why demographic dividend plays a very critical and an important role. Second is domestic consumption. See, basically domestic consumption means that whatever we manufacture in India, 80% of that is consumed by our own people only. So we are not a export dependent economy. Now that particular point, friends, is very critical and important, that we are not an export dependent economy. The reason is that basically this ensures that we independently can create certain level of demand and consumption in the economy. And that is something very, very vital and important for the long-term growth prospects of our economy. So that is why this particular point is very critical and important as far as Indian economy is concerned. And finally, friends, if you see savings rate, see savings is something very vital. See, as far as our economy is concerned, why savings rate is so much vital? Because when you save money, saving results into capital formation results into investment, and investment results into asset creation, correct? So this is something very critical and important. Now, because we relatively save good amount of money, obviously Indians are in a more better situation to deal with any kind of untoward economic slowdown or other things. So this also really helps our economy to grow well. That is why, friends, saving plays a critical role. So here, what ultimately we have to understand is that when we save so much of money and because of our domestic consumption and young population theme, the foreign investors are finding our economy very much attractive. And that is the reason, friends, why they want to put in so much of money into our economy as well as stock market. Friends, Indian economy is seen as a long-term economy for growth and prosperity. See, whenever we have to analyze an economy, we have to go through the following factors, which are typically called as key macroeconomic parameters like GDP, inflation, interest rate, exchange rate, current account deficit, fiscal deficit, and index of industrial production. These are important factors which we need to keep it in mind. So these are the vital factors which we always try to primarily foresee. So whenever you analyze an economy, these factors are important to be analyzed. So we will try to understand each one of them. First, if we talk of gross domestic product, GDP, which is the most important vital indicator for analyzing the economic growth. See, GDP basically shows you the economic progress made by a country in 1 year. This data is released by government in every 3 months. Every 3 months, this data is released by the government. Currently, if you see, our GDP is at 7.1% as compared to world average of around 3%. Even last 20 years economic data shows sustainability in our growth rate. Friends, as far as our GDP is concerned, it consists of 70% into services sector. That means services contribute 70%, agriculture contributes 14%, and 15% primarily comes from the manufacturing segment. Here, though statistically it may seem that agriculture contributes the least, but if you actually see, friends, 62% of our population even today are dependent on agriculture for livelihood. This actually means that unless basically unless agriculture sector grows at 4%, our economy will not grow at 9%. Hence, the growth rate of agriculture plays a very vital role. In fact, friends, you will be surprised to see that even during the pandemic, when there was complete lockdown, agriculture sector was the only one which clocked a positive growth of 3.2%. If you see currently industry, then industry growth is stagnant at 15% from 1993 till date. Unfortunately, we could not capitalize on manufacturing, though the current government in the last 7 years have been trying to increase the manufacturing base, and that has really helped India. If you see, the Make in India campaign has been very important in increasing the share of manufacturing, the GDP, from 15% to 25%. Correct. This is something we have to keep it in mind. From 15 to 25% has been the objective of Make in India campaign. Friends, why this particular factor is so much important? The reason is that if we are able to increase the share of manufacturing, then that really helps us to create lakhs of jobs at the grassroots level. And when jobs get created, obviously things are at much more ease. So that is why, friends, Make in India plays a very, very critical and a vital role in the long term. On the other hand, Make in India also helps us to reduce the import bill, and even balance of payment will become more strong. That is why, friends, this particular GDP composition of India is very interesting. If we just touch base, that developed economies like Europe, US, they have a service sector contribution of more than 85%. As far as China is concerned, friends, their basically economy is very unique, with manufacturing contributing, basically manufacturing segment contributing around this thing 53% in the GDP growth rate. Second and third vital factor is inflation and interest rate. See, this is again something very important. See, inflation and interest rate together make up the monetary policy framework. As a result, whenever inflation rises in the economy, friends, the RBI is forced to increase the interest rate. Inflation is an independent variable, whereas interest rate is a dependent variable. So that is something we have to keep it in mind. If you see our average inflation growth, friends, it is in the range of 6 to 7%. The current inflation is at 5.59%, friends. It is at 5.59%. It is yet below the 6% mark of RBI. So when inflation crosses 6%, then in that case, yes, the RBI will be under pressure to increase the interest rates. Currently, RBI has kept interest rates deliberately at a lower level so that economy can fight out this COVID-19 problem and economy recovers well. If you see this particular thing, friends, when RBI, how does it control inflation? By increasing the repo rate. So when RBI increases repo rate, obviously the rate on fixed deposits and loans also will rise. Now, as loans become costly, one has to be careful, friends, and one has to basically understand that when loans become costly, the demand and consumption in the economy will go down. See, the reason is that we have large chunk of people in the middle class population, to ensure that they will always buy something based on the interest rate movement. So when they feel that interest rates are rising or basically their EMI are going to rise, in that case, they will obviously try to avoid taking a housing loan, car loan, and as a result, the demand and consumption in the economy slows down. In December 2000, in December 2013, if you see, friends, that time the inflation had become 12%. So repo rate went to 8%. RBI kept on increasing the repo rate and it went to 8%. Now, when repo rate was at 8%, friends, that time if you see, FD started giving 9% return, but loans became 11%. So when loans became 11%, the GDP crashed out and basically the GDP came down to 4.6%. It was at a 10 years low. So that is again something we have to keep it in mind. Friends, interest rate always tends to have inverse relationship with two things, stock market also and the GDP growth also. Whenever interest rate goes up, friends, that will make more people go towards the FDs, provident fund and other kind of instruments because your risk-free rate of return goes up. The current boom in the stock market is also attributed to the fact that interest rates are very low, and that is why large number of people are basically putting their money in stock market because FDs currently give around 5% return. So that is also a major reason why basically stock markets were booming. But 2022-23 will be the year of fixed deposits as interest rates are bound to rise again. The fourth important macro parameter is exchange rate. Friends, exchange rate basically shows you the rupee dollar equation. Here, when rupee depreciates, it actually means that economy is weak and foreign currency outflow is there. And when rupee appreciates, it means economy is strong and foreign currency inflows are there. Friends, whenever rupee depreciates, it hurts our economy in a big way as India imports 77% we import of the total crude oil. So that is something which always hurts our economy in a big way. That is something we need to be cautious about. Here, oil pool deficit, friends, whenever basically oil pool deficit goes up, it again has the impact of affecting our balance of payment in a big way. Correct? Balance of payment gets affected in a big way for the simple reason, friends, that when balance of payment rises, it becomes weak. Foreign investors will become more jittery to primarily foreign investors will become more jittery to basically invest money in the economy. So that is again something needs to be taken care of. Currently, if you see, the crude oil prices have touched $90 per barrel. It is at a 7 years high. And when crude oil goes up, it also puts pressure in India on inflation because 50% weightage in the inflation index is given to crude oil, that is to petrol and diesel. If you see, friends, from 2007 to 2020 or 21, the rupee has been systematically depreciating. In 2007, $1 was 38 rupees. In 2021, it has reached 76 rupees 28 paisa. So over a period of time, unfortunately, rupee has depreciated. And the reason for this depreciation is primarily the fact that basically rupee depreciated for the simple reason that there has been a constant outflow of foreign currency, which is hurting our economy. Currently, also, if you see in this month, more than 15,000 crore rupees have been withdrawn by FIIs, foreign institutional investors, and that has made rupee weak also, plus stock markets have also come under pressure. In 2014, if you see, the price of this thing, crude oil was $100 per barrel. In 2016, it reduced to $42 per barrel. And in 2017, it went to $29 per barrel. So basically, what has happened is that if you actually see the current scenario, friends, if you actually try to see the current scenario, that because rupee is depreciated and crude oil prices have gone up, that puts extensive pressure on our balance of payment, because balance of payment becomes weak as we keep on importing crude oil. That is something we have to keep it in mind. If we talk of the difference between exports and imports, friends, whenever you see that the difference between current account deficit is the difference between exports and imports. So when imports are more than exports, it is typically called as current account deficit. Right now, if you see, the current account deficit is at around 2.4%. It is still relatively in a better zone. The reason is that in last 2 years, because of pandemic, both exports and imports were typically down. So that has led to basically lower amount of current account deficit also. Friends, our main, if you will see now, our main current account deficit comes from two things. One is basically crude oil and one is gold. These two things we import in a big way, current account deficit and gold. These two things we import in a big way, and that actually hurts our economy, correct? Because we keep on importing crude oil and gold, which basically are outside our control. So that primarily creates a problem. Friends, a lower current account deficit will mean that we have a more stronger balance of payment, and which also reduces the pressure on our import bill. And that is why, friends, the Make in India campaign plays a very critical and a vital role when it comes to basically this particular scenario. So that is why in Make in India, the more things we manufacture here, it helps to reduce the import bill, and at the same time, more jobs gets created, and thus the GDP of the country rises. So that is why current account deficit is very important. Then if we talk of fiscal deficit, see, fiscal deficit is even more important from foreign institutional investors' perspective. See, fiscal deficit is nothing but the difference between government's income and government's expenditure. So the point here is very simple, that if government's income is the taxes paid by you and me, it is the taxes paid by the people of India and the corporates. Government expenditure is what government spends on poverty, defense, social issues, infrastructure, and other things. Now, the gap between government's income and government's expenditure should not be more than 3.5 to 4%. Correct? It should not be more than that. It should be in the range of 3.5 to 4%. So, if it exceeds that, then basically foreign investors think that government is inefficient in managing public money. Now here friends, if you see last year government had to come out with a 20 lakh crore rupees of economic package to help the economy fight from this coronavirus pandemic. As a result, our fiscal deficit went up to 9.6%. This year it is projected to come down to 6.8%. And friends, going ahead by 2025-26, government feels that our fiscal deficit will again come back to the normal target zone of around 3.5%. Friends, in the parliament, a bill was passed earlier by the Manmohan Singh government, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Bill. This is something, friends, very, very important. Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Bill. This is something very vital. Why? Because for the simple reason that this makes the Prime Minister answerable in the Parliament if primarily the fiscal deficit goes up. Now, in this budget also, that is on the budget which came on 1st February 2021, that is in the last year's budget, government has ensured that fiscal deficit will come back to the normal level. And after that, basically, the foreign institutional investors, they bought shares worth 20,000 crore rupees in just 20 days. So that shows, friends, the importance of basically fiscal deficit as a data. Fiscal deficit is very important, friends, from a longer term perspective. The final, friends, macroeconomic indicator which is there is index of industrial production. See, this shows the demand in the manufacturing segment. So if the index is rising, we can say, yes, there is a lot of demand in the manufacturing segment. If the index is falling, we say that basically there is less demand in the manufacturing segment. Last month, this reading was at 3.2%, but this time the reading has come down to 1.4%. So friends, there are still challenges related to manufacturing segment in the economy. Conclusion is very simple, friends, that macroeconomic indicators are very important for the economy to grow. FII and FDI both follow macroeconomic indicators, and if these indicators are strong, then only large amount of money will primarily come in the economy. This is something, friends, very critical and vital. Here, remember one thing, that if the macroeconomic indicators are weak, then foreign investors always try to withdraw the capital, and that primarily creates an issue. Apart from these things, friends, if you see, apart from this particular aspect, there are 4 structural reforms also which play a very critical role as far as making India a super economic power. Correct. This is again something very critical and important. These 4 structural reforms have also helped Indian economy to gain a good ground at the grassroots level. The first and the foremost important thing is basically GST. Friends, GST is something which is very, very vital and critical. So here what happens is, if the GST collections basically go up, if the GST collections rise, currently if you can see that more than 1 lakh crore rupees is coming, if the government is able to collect every month more than 1 lakh crore rupees. So when the government collects more than 1 lakh crore rupees, the no state government or central government can now say that we are having short of funds. So this is something very vital and important. It is important, friends, that basically as far as GST is concerned, GST has ensured that one nation, one tax, correct? So these things will always ensure that we are able to get good amount of revenue from the government. This particular point we have to keep it in mind as far as GST is concerned. Thus, today GST has ensured that even all businesses, they have moved from a black money driven concept to basically filing of returns, and everything is now on paper. So this has also helped the economies to grow well, and plus today the revenue government is getting is humongously large enough. Second, friends, if you see, is Aadhar Card. See, Aadhar Card played a very, very critical role in identifying the last man in the queue, correct? Last man in the queue has been able to identified by Aadhar card. So this is something, friends, very, very critical and important. If you see, friends, basically in case of Aadhar card, there has been a direct saving of 15,000 crore rupees because today the subsidy reaches to the actual beneficiary. Without this, earlier around 15,000 crore was getting leaked from the system. So plus Aadhar card has also ensured authentication of Indian residency. Correct. This is something very vital. Plus it has helped to reduce fake documentation also. Thus, Aadhar card plays a vital and a critical role for our economy to sustain. In fact, we have also given earlier a suggestion that if Aadhar card is made 1 point KYC, then India can have more than 100 crore eligible investors. Since Aadhar card is there with more than 130 crore people, whereas PAN card is with around 40 to 45 crore people only. So that is why Aadhar card plays a very important role as a 1 point documentation and for all investment purpose also. The third important reform, structural reform, which the government had done was RERA, Real Estate Regulation Act. See, in case of RERA, maximum amount of black money and illegal money goes into real estate, maximum amount, correct? So this primarily created an issue that as far as RERA is concerned, there were earlier fly-by-night builders who were running away with the hard-earned money of the people. But after RERA has come, all the real estate developers have been brought under stringent control. For example, today, if their project is not registered, then they have to pay 10% of their property value as penalty. If basically they give wrong advertisement, they have to go to 3 years jail. If basically they give late delivery of home, they have to primarily pay 12% interest on that. So these are certain things, friends, which play a very, very critical and a vital role when it primarily comes to this thing. So remember one thing, that as far as RERA is concerned, it has brought the much needed real estate sector under control. And this has also ensured that today things are in a far better zone. Correct. It has ensured that primarily your money is not taken right by these fly-by-night builders. The fourth most important thing, if you see, friends, is basically the Banking Insolvency Act. See, what is Banking Insolvency Act, friends? If you try to see Banking Insolvency Act, then this particular act has also ensured that the corporates which were earlier taking loans but not paying it back have been brought under the ambit of law. And with the formation of NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal, which is a body which has been given sufficient powers to basically liquidate the assets of the defaulting corporates. As a result, the total NPA in the banking system has reduced from 9 lakh crores to 7.5 lakh crores. So this has played a very critical and a vital role, friends. NCLT has ensured that basically large number of defaulting corporates have been made to pay their bills and NPAs have reduced. This is, friends, very important because this now has created a strong pressure in the minds of people that if you borrow money, you have to repay it to the bank. Apart from these four structural programs, friends, there are four initiations done by the government in terms of four programs. Make in India, then Skill India, Digital India, and Startup India. These are the four things, friends, which basically are considered as four important programs which have been initiated. So if you see this, Make in India. See, Make in India was the most important thing with a clear objective of increasing the share of manufacturing in the economy from 15% to 25%. Now, there are three main important benefits for this. First, it will create lakhs of job opportunities as far as India is concerned. It will reduce our import bill drastically, which helps us to save foreign exchange reserve. And third, brand Make in India will shine globally. Friends, this particular program is very vital. And if you see, especially in the defense sector, in the last 7 years, see, earlier India was always traditionally a defense equipment importer. But in the last 7 years, we have been able to export defense worth 35,000 crore rupees. So this has really helped India to shine out from a Make in India perspective also. Second is basically Skill India. See, Skill India means here the main objective is to make youth employable. Correct. That is the main objective of Skill India, is to make the youth employable. Now here it is important that we teach youth some or the other kind of specific skill-based work like driving, electrical work, mechanical work, tailoring, so that each person is able to earn for himself using this skill. So that is why Skill India plays a very critical and a vital role, because when a person works, he will be contributing in the economic growth. So that is why Skill India is considered as very important and a vital instrument for the long-term growth. Then basically comes Digital India. See, what is primarily Digital India, friends? See, Digital India has today ensured that we are in a position, Digital India has specifically ensured that today India is in a position whereby sitting in one corner, you can do or reach out to the entire Indian population with any of your project services, whatever you try to make out. So this has also really helped a large number of people to gain out of the situation. And that is why if you see the current unicorns which have come, the current unicorns, they all are primarily based on digital concept only. They are primarily based on digital concept. So this is again, friends, something very vital and important, that as far as Digital India is concerned, this helps you to increase your valuation over a period of time. And finally, friends, a very, very important aspect of what we call it as Startup India. Friends, the whole purpose of Startup India is to create more and more entrepreneurs in the economy, correct? So here the whole purpose is that you can create lakhs of jobs in the economy by creating entrepreneurs. And if you see, we take a simple example. See, suppose there are 60 MBA students, and if they go out to seek a job, then these 60 are job seekers. But friends, if each of them start a small office and each of them employ 3 people also, for example, office boy, marketing person, and an office admin, then 60 into 3, 180 jobs they are creating. Thus, Startup India again plays a very critical and a vital role for basically creating more and more job opportunities in the economy. So with this, friends, I conclude my part of presentation, and now we can go for question answer session. So please feel free to ask questions.
Thank you, sir. The session was quite informative, and the information which you shared was quite updated knowledge and information for all of us.
Thank you, ma'am.
So
Yes.
there is one question regarding as to what are the different programs undertaken by government under Skill India.
See, basically in the Skill India, ma'am, see, a lot of initiations have been taken. Like even Skill India includes, you can do training in insurance, in mutual fund, you can become an entrepreneur even in financial markets also. Apart from these traditional things like driving, electrical work, mechanical work, plumbing work. See, the objective of Skill India is what? That you know at least one skill with the help of which you can earn for yourself as well as you can sustain your family. So that is what the whole objective of Skill India is. And that is why in order to meet this objective, it is very important and vital that we are able to generate good amount of return in the long term. So the whole objective of Skill India is primarily to create more and more job opportunities. That is what the whole purpose is.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for answering in such a explanatory way. Now I will request my colleague, Assistant Professor Smita Jagtap ma'am, for vote of thanks.
I, Assistant Professor Smita Jagta, would like to thank Dr. Aditya Srinivasan for sparing his valuable time and sharing with us such valuable inputs about the Indian economy. I would like to thank the management of S.S.T College of Arts and Commerce, Chairman our founder, Principal Dr. J.C. Purushwani, and IQC Coordinator Dr. Khushbu Purushwani for taking this effort for arranging such a thoughtful and connected session for all. Thanks to the technical team, teaching, non-teaching staff for the support in making this session successful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your kind words. I really enjoyed taking session and answering the questions. Thank you very much. Shall I leave, ma'am? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.